Hello, Gunther. Welcome and thank you for joining us for this short interview. Scrum is 20 years old, and there are two never-ending discussions. One about scaling it, another one about implementing it, both in big organizations. What are your 2 cents in the discussion?
Well, there are two sides to the discussion. The success of Scrum has made sure that there might be a lot of suboptimal implementations, but at least there's a lot of them. That gives us a good foundation to improve. In a way that's better than still having to promote Scrum and get people into even start with Scrum. It's a great start, and we can help people improve. And we see that as our role, as helping people understand Scrum better and mature their implementation of Scrum. There's so much improvement possible, which is good. It will never stop. Improvement will never stop. And I prefer lots of people doing Scrum, going there, helping them, giving them new ideas, than still having to convince them to even start with Scrum.
So it's an urban legend that if you're a startup, one-team company, one-man company, it's easy to be agile, it's easy to implement Scrum. So imagine I'm a CEO of a corporation in 10 countries, 20,000 employees. We're doing waterfall, we don't like it, we heard about agile. Where to start? How would you start?
First of all, the essential problem isn't in the fact that you want to scale Scrum. The essential problem is that the organization was scaled in the past upon very different angles and very different perspectives. But I understand the problem. Huge companies, huge organizations, they want to go to Scrum. What is so important about Scrum is often overlooked, that it's what I call a bounded environment for action. So it creates some boundaries within which people can take action and limit the risks of their action by time boxing their efforts. And that's often overlooked. So take action, try something, don't take too long, stop regularly to look back, inspect what you're doing, adapt what you're doing, and that is so much more valuable than being paralyzed by the size and where do we start. Pick something, start there, do it, pick a pilot project to do Scrum, set up a sort of separate department within the company next to the traditional way of doing software. We call it a Scrum Studio. Let the Scrum Studio work on Scrum. Hire people, invest in your people, and above all, start changing, take action. Do something that you think might work. Check regularly whether it's actually working or not. Do something else. It is hard work, and it will take time. Some companies, I've seen some big companies go for Scrum within, let's say, one department. I've seen one company that I worked with go from 0 people doing Scrum up to 800 people in an IT department doing Scrum. It took them 2.5 years, which is in a way pretty fast if you look back at it. The achievements were huge. Then other people within the organization, huge organization, picked up on that, and they wanted the same. They wanted those benefits too. And the management of the organization, the board of directors wanted that too. And then they sort of commanded the rest of the organization to adapt Scrum in 5 months. That's nice, but it probably will not work. If it takes 800 people 2.5 years, I don't know how long it's going to take for 4,000 or 5,000 people, but at least more than 5 months. So be realistic, but take action. Improve, do something, learn, inspect, adapt. That's the essence of Scrum.
And people do take actions, and I see, in my experience, two ways. Either teams very low on the bottom in the hierarchy of a corporation, thinking Scrum is fine, so bottom-up implementation of Scrum, and sooner or later they hit a glass roof of procedures and structures that they cannot work with anymore. The other approach is top-down. Some CEOs said we're going into Scrum, but that's rare. What do you think? What is better? What is the best way?
Well, a proper, and I mean proper, lasting implementation of Scrum needs both of them. There's indeed a pattern where people, let's say on the work floor, the teams, they happily adopt Scrum. It re-energizes them, they have fun, but they run into problems that as a team, multiple teams, all of the Scrum Masters together can't resolve. So the enthusiasm goes down again. Why are we doing this if nobody's supporting us? So you can't do it without that bottom-up enthusiasm. If you do it only top-down, that's dictating it. That's commanding and controlling. That's sort of the opposite of agile thinking. In general, helps a lot is knowing why you are adopting Scrum. Adopting Scrum just for the sake of Scrum, that's a very suboptimal view. What are you hoping to achieve by adopting Scrum? More releases, faster releases, higher customer satisfaction, more happy employees, more revenues. That will help you. If you then start measuring those things and let your Scrum adoption, the change process, be driven by those measurements, regularly inspecting, adapting upon those measurements, that will help a lot.
Scrum.org has developed two frameworks that are addressing the topic of large-scale Scrum and implementation of Scrum. One is evidence-based management, the other is Nexus. How they are different to what already existed?
Well, how they are different is the fact that they fully thrive on Scrum's core principles. We don't think you have to add roles and reintroduce phases and sort of hierarchical stuff again on top of Scrum. You can grow Scrum in a horizontal way. Spread it. It's like an oil spill. It's what some people might call fractal growth, incremental growth. So, and our models. So the one thing, the Nexus, the Scale Professional Scrum framework we have in place, it will help people scale their product development done through Scrum. Next to that, we've got the Agility Path framework. That will help people address the organization. So not only the product development, but product development as embedded in the whole organization. And both of them use empiricism, bottom-up intelligence, creativity of people to grow product development and grow the organization.
Finally, what would you say to, would you tell to a CEO of a company that has no Scrum, but want to have, to convince him to invest, because that's investment, isn't it?
Okay. Be informed. Check on the current state of your organization, the happiness of your people, the happiness of your customers, your ability to delight your customers. Is that fine? Don't change. Do you think you can do better than that? Look for other ways that can bring you that improvement, that optimization. And Scrum is a tool that can actually help you do that. Scrum is not an IT tool. Scrum is a tool for business agility, enterprise agility, that can help you delight your customers more frequently, create more happy employees by creating simply releasable software, bringing it out to the market, closing sort of the feedback loop with your customers.
Very often I see CEOs or leaders in general that avoid Scrum, especially on large scale, and telling me that they don't see what's at the end. What's the vision?
Organizations are hoping to achieve in general by adopting Scrum or other agile processes is achieving a sort of state, a way of being of the organization, which I call agility, a state of constant reinvention, constant adaptation to new circumstances. That's sort of the state you want to bring your organization in. And by doing Scrum, adopting Scrum, that might you achieve that state. But it's also core to agility, the state of constant reinvention, that there is no end state. There is no end final state. It's about continuously adapting. That's very different from the old way of planning things. You can still use elements from Scrum to create roadmaps, to look into the future. But you know what? On top of that, you will constantly adapt your roadmap, replan your roadmap. So there's no need to look 5 years ahead in the future. So, and that's a core belief. I think it's essential to agility. It cannot be planned, it cannot be dictated, it has no end state, it uses feedback loops to have control over what's going on.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you a good conference, and stay here.